money is an emotional subject. And, part of our job is to take people's emotion, which usually tells them to do the wrong things, out of the process, which is a different issue. But I think you're not going to be successful in this industry working with clients unless you can acknowledge from the beginning that money is an emotional subject for everyone, and that everyone's relationship with money is very different. It's usually very emotional, and it's shaped by things that happened many, many years ago in their lives. And you're probably, as the financial advisor, you're not going to change it. So you need to learn it and figure it out and then work with it as best you can.
Welcome to Knowing Me, Knowing You, the podcast for the future of wealth management. Thanks for being here. I'm Marla Sofer. Money is a tool. It empowers people. Let's dive into how technology is personalizing advice, strengthening connections, and creating lasting impact. If you're an advisor looking to differentiate, a fintech leader shaping the next wave, or a client ready to take control of your financial future, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome to the Knowing Me, Knowing You podcast, the Know Me podcast, where we explore the art and science of discovery to build meaningful connections in financial planning. I'm here with Miye Wire, and Miye is the founder of Miye Wire, LLC, a financial planning firm known for its client-centric approach and dedication to simplifying financial lives. With over 30 years of experience and an all-woman team, except for her son, Miye's practice embodies the ethos of truly knowing clients, starting with deep discovery to create personalized strategies. We'll dive into how she helps clients open up, her unique approach to building trust, and how technology can create these relationships over time. Welcome, Miye, to the Knowing Me, Knowing You podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So you've had an incredible career. You've had a ton of accolades. You are known for having just a really strong referral-based planning practice. Before we dive into that, I would love to get a sense of what excites you about the moment we're in right now in the world of wealth management and financial planning.
I think probably the thing that is most exciting for me is that I feel like when I first came in the industry, 35 years ago, people felt like financial planning and having a financial advisor was for people who were very wealthy. And I feel like that has completely turned around. And I feel like today, everyone who has a cell phone, basically good or bad, there are some flip sides to that, can be an investor and can do planning and it's investing. And I think it feels a lot more accessible. And I think a big problem that we always found, I think probably the first 10 or 15 years of my career, people that would come to seek advice from a financial advisor were generally older, wealthier. And what we always heard from them after, working with them, even for a fairly short period of time, was, I wish we would have done this 20 years ago. I wish we would have done this 30 years ago. I wish I would have met you when I was 25. And so it was such a thing that the people who need financial advisors the most are the people who don't have money, because that's how you become one of the people that has money, right? But most people, especially at that time, had this idea that I don't have enough money to need a financial advisor. I don't have enough money to do investing. And I think that has changed a lot. And I think almost everyone now feels like, oh, everybody invests their money. Everybody has a 401k. And, if you have a cell phone, you can buy stocks. And again, there's a pro and a con to that. But I feel like so many of our clients coming in the door now are super young, 20s, 30s, and they don't feel like they're in the wrong place, at least not to the extent that it was, many years ago. So to me, that's great, because I feel like the number of people that are going to be better off and have their financial lives in order, the sooner it's all about time, right? And the sooner you get started doing it and the sooner you get the good habits and doing things the right way, then the easier things are going to be for you. So, we had put initiatives in place many, many years ago at our firm where we told all of our clients, look, we'll do your children's financial planning, their initial financial plan, for free. Like, we won't charge them. We normally charge fees for the planning. And as soon as our clients' kids would get their first job, we would always tell them, send them into the office or, get them in touch with us on Teams or what have you. And we'll get them set up with their 401k. We'll teach them a little bit about building credit. We'll make sure they have an emergency fund and just kind of getting them started on the right foot so that the lifetime of their investing and savings can be so much easier. So for me, that's really awesome. Like, I think it's such a great thing. I feel like it's much more accessible now than it was years ago.
Wow, you just said so much in there. I love it. So the accessibility, you kind of said accessibility and just broadening demographics, but really honing in on age and saying that you don't have to wait so long to start with your planning. And then you also went further to say, well, in our practice, we actually give our time and energy and support to our clients' kids, even if you're not managing it, even if you're just helping them with the 401k and making better selections. plans. And so you're building these trusted relationships before there's kind of a handover, which is great for your business as well. Yeah, fantastic. So you have just shared with me before we started recording that your practice has won multiple years as the best planning practice in Northern Virginia, and that you've spoken about your planning process. And I'm curious to understand, what are some of the tips and insights? I mean, you just expressed one. You're really about building relationships and trust, and it feels like it's not as transactional. Can you kind of say a little
Right.
bit in your own words about how you've been so successful?
I really think the key to our success is that a lot of parts of what we do are the same across the board for a lot of advisors, right? All financial advisors have access to the same sorts of investment products and the way that we can manage money for our clients or what have you. A lot of that has become more like table stakes in the last, 10 or 20 years. So I think the thing that has really, really made a difference for us and the reason that our clients are such fans is that we kind of look at what we do as the same way you look at like a personal chef or a personal trainer or whatever, right? People know they need to save money. They know they need to put money in their 401k. They know they need to save money for their kids' college or have enough life insurance or whatever all those things are. But knowing that you need to do something and actually getting it done are completely different. I tell people this all the time. I have a good friend who's also my personal trainer, and we work out together 3 times a week. And I will tell you on those days where he's like, hey, I'm sick or I'm going to be out of town, I am not down in my gym in my basement lifting weights. I'm sitting on the sofa with my dog reading a book. Again, it's not because I don't know that I need to be lifting weights, right? It's because I don't have someone there who's like, hey, okay, I'm here, you're paying me, let's go do this, right? And I think the missing piece for a lot of, advisory firms is they feel like I can put a good plan in place and tell this client what to do, and then they think their work is done. And then they wonder why the client doesn't follow any of their recommendations. And so I think I heard a lot early in my career, oh yeah, we paid somebody a bunch of money for a plan. And back in the day, they give you this big leather bound book with all these pages in it, and you never looked at it again. And then you never did anything. And I always said to myself, like, that is never going to be me and that is never going to be us. Like, our deliverable to our clients when we do their first iteration of their plan, it's 1 page and it's detailed and it's steps that they can take starting today. We tell them that, look, we're going to give you steps that you can do starting today to get you headed in the right direction. And then we have a meeting after we deliver the plan, which is called the regroup meeting, which is just what it sounds like. We get back together and we say, okay, let's go through all these recommendations we gave you. And then we're going to figure out who's going to do what. And every client's different, right? So you have to meet them where they are. And some clients are going to come back. We have a lot of clients who work at Microsoft. They're very technical, organized engineers, and they'll come back with their Excel spreadsheet and be like, I did this, this, and this, and I just need some help here and there. But I would say the bulk of the people we work with, they're like, okay, we're on board with these. We want to do these things, but we want you guys to do everything for us. And then we're like, okay, we can do that. And then everybody else is kind of somewhere in between. But we always tell people from the beginning, we're like, look, we're all about making progress and getting things done. So if we have an agreement in the regroup meeting that these things are going to get done, we're going to make assignments about who's going to do it, if it's you or if it's us or what have you. And we're going to make sure, unless we're told otherwise at some point in time, we're going to make sure that everything that we've agreed on gets done. And if that means that you've said you're going to do something, we follow up once a month for 3 months and it doesn't happen, we're going to start changing our message. And we're going to say, hey, look, it sounds like you're really busy. Do you want us to take this off your plate and we can do it for you? But basically, I tell people with full confidence, because we're super, super, super organized and we work very well together as a team. I tell clients all the time, look, nothing will ever fall through the cracks with us. Like, you can rest assured, like, if something's supposed to get done, it's going to get done one way or another. And I think that's really the secret sauce for us. It's not about doing great planning work, which I think we do, or having a great investment philosophy, which I think we do too, but it's basically about making sure that clients are reaching their goals, which is what they really care about at the end of the day. They don't care about the investment philosophy or whatever,
Right.
So.
I love so much of that. So what I'm taking away from what you said is that you become an accountability partner. Yeah, but it's not only an accountability partner. You get into the depth of personalizing for your client, like a personal chef or trainer, and you have an incredibly strong bias for action. Like, the reason they're there in the first place is because they want to take action. It's not because they need somebody to preach to them and tell them something to believe different or what they need to do. It's because you are there to be their action accountability partner. You're getting them to take action, and you're surfacing how they take action in a way that empowers them to take the steps forward with this digestible one-pager and with the organization and everything else in a way that's customized for them. So my next question is, when you are working with the client, let's say it's a new client, or maybe just a kid of a client you've got, or somebody that's somewhat new to you. When you want to become a personal chef or trainer, you have a little bit of a longer road in the initial stages of discovery. How do I make sure I understand enough about you to understand how you like to interact, your model, your level of organization, what you are holding me accountable to? So I'm going to hold you accountable to taking action. That's what you hired me for. But what is it you're holding me accountable to? Because sometimes it's going to be your client might want you to be held accountable to just, I want you to allocate my portfolio. But I've interviewed some folks, and I'm curious if you have too, where some women I've interviewed have basically said, I want to build a better relationship with money. I want to be able to, one woman I know who is worth $45 million, she's like, I don't want to run back to Costco when the shirt I bought is on sale for $2 cheaper. Like, how do I address that component of my
Right.
relationship with money?
I think you really just need to ask the right questions
Mhm.
and be a really, really good listener. For me, the way that I try to uncover some of that is just asking a lot of open ended questions because I feel like letting someone talk and kind of hearing their dialogue and how they relate to money and how they talk about money is going to give you the most insight into what their relationship with money is like and what they're trying to do. And we talked about this a little bit in a previous conversation, but I usually it's like that old adage of like he who speaks or she who speaks first loses. So I usually just try to open every meeting with just a very broad, open-ended question and then just shut up and let them talk. And then just like I said, be a really, really good listener. And then you also have to, especially if you're in my situation where you're on a team, there's usually two people in the meeting. So there's two sets of ears, but there's another six other people who are going to be working with this client that also need that same information. So I think that's where, and I know I'm like poaching a little ahead into some of your other questions, but I think that's where some of the technology can come into play because, we basically use our CRM for everything. So even don't just use the CRM for the hard data, but use it for, we put notes in. We put notes in about, hey, this client XYZ about their personality, or this is what, and we really, I think you have to work in small enough teams that you feel like people can get to know clients a little bit better because some of it is hard to put into words, right? It's just you work with people for a while and you kind of get a sense for their personality and that kind of thing. Some of the questions we ask in our intake meeting, which is when we're really trying to get some of the soft data from people, has to do with, and sometimes clients themselves haven't really thought about it in that kind of a way, but we'll ask them a question and we're like, hey, I come up with all these hypothetical situations. And I'm like, well, if it came down to it and, your plan had been to cover 4 years of in-state public college for your child, and then they come to you at 18 and they're like, oh my gosh, mom, I got into Stanford, but it's 3 times the cost of what we budgeted for. Like, what are you going to do? Is your response going to be, well, this is what we've covered and you can take loans for the difference? Or you're going to be the one who's like, oh no, I want to be able to cover that. And if I have to work another 3 years in order to do that, I'd rather do that. And I'm like, for us, we're your financial advisors. We're going to help you plan. We're going to advise you through this. We need to know like, which is going to be your response. And maybe you're going to think it's one thing and it turns out to be another thing, which does also happen all the time. But obviously that kind of information is really, really important for us to know. But if we don't ask, they're not necessarily going to volunteer that. They probably have never even thought about it. But we have to use like experiences we've had with other clients where things maybe didn't go as planned or their response wasn't what we thought it was going to be or what they thought it was going to be to ask the question to the next client to say, hey, if this was your situation, if we're like, you guys want to have that $50,000 a year travel budget and that's not going to work, would you work longer? Would you cut your travel budget? Like we ask a lot of those kind of questions where we ask people to put themselves in situations maybe that they haven't thought about before, and their responses will give us a lot of information about what their priorities are. And then I think the missing link where we need better technology is to say, how do you take the information you get in that conversation and how do you then translate into actionable or a place where you're going to refer to it again or where it's always going to be front and center when you're dealing with that client?
I love a lot of that. So first of all, what your example hit straight to my heart because I've got one in college in Berkeley, so California State School, and then the other one who is, oh goodness, I'm just in that period where he applied to a whole bunch of public schools and a couple of private, and wow, that one was like, wow, that's so relevant to me right now, and I know
People
what my
do
answer
not
is.
think about that ahead of time,
Yes, it's so
And I'm like,
true.
this is reality. It happens all the time. You're budgeting for a $30,000 a year school, and all of a sudden your kid's like, oh, hey, I got in here and it's 90 grand a year, but I really want to go. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, it's so true. And I think having that conversation and even involving the child and helping making it a learning moment, I think for us has kind of been really helpful. My kids, at least I think both of them even want to go on to graduate degrees and like having an open conversation about, okay, well, let's talk about funding for that, for
What does
those
this mean for the
graduate
rest of your
degrees.
life? What does
And
this
are you
mean for
gonna,
your career? And
yeah.
yeah.
And are you gonna work first? Are for me, my parents helped me pay for my bachelor's and then I worked full time and got my graduate
Right.
degree part time in the evening. So yeah, having those conversations. I love that you ask the right questions and you're a good listener and you start with the open-ended questions. And what you shared with me in a prior discussion is you start with, why are you here? How can I help you? And then from there, it just kind of hones in and by listening, you understand what the next question is and the next question is. So a lot of advisors, I think, like to and feel in their comfort zone when they're talking about the numbers. Like they love to talk about how much money you make, how much you've saved, how it's distributed, and do you have any insurance policies? Have you created an estate plan? Like all of that stuff. They're like, just give me that. I could talk about that all day and all night. So when you have other folks on your team, how do you guide people to, they've got to be comfortable with the numbers, but they also have to know how to uncover that emotional and motivational side, because especially the motivation, because your whole differentiation, the core of your planning practice is the bias for action. And you have to know how to motivate somebody to take action and to follow your action, to follow your lead. So where are you getting that and how are you guiding your team?
That's a really good question. I would say, I think I remember very early in my career, I had a colleague and he was very much a kind of really good guy, good heart, but very much kind of like you were saying, cut and dried into the numbers, like, giving good advice, but maybe not getting people to actually take action very much. And I think for me, it was just I'm like the type of person I get excited about the little things. I love what I do. Like I have a lot of passion. And I think people always tell me like it shows, right? People get that from me right away. And he used to always tell me like how lucky I was. And I was like, I don't think it's luck. I think there's two aspects to it. I think one is that, money is a person for clients. It's a personal thing. For us, yeah, it's a career and and I love numbers. I've always been a math numbers person, but for most people, that's not what it's about. It's about the emotional side, right? So I think what clients would tell me, the feedback that I got early on was that I have a lot of enthusiasm and energy around it. And I think that energizes clients about it. Like I get excited about things, they get excited. It's kind of contagious, right? And I think that you have to acknowledge from the beginning that money is an emotional subject. And, part of our job is to take people's emotion, which usually tells them to do the wrong things, out of the process, which is a different issue. But I think you're not going to be successful in this industry working with clients unless you can acknowledge from the beginning that money is an emotional subject for everyone and that everyone's relationship with money is very different. It's usually very emotional and it's shaped by things that happened many, many years ago in their lives. And you're probably, as the financial advisor, you're not going to change it. So you need to learn it and figure it out and then work with it as best you can. And as far as how, I think I don't know, it's so embedded in our team culture. I know that probably sounds like a cop out, but being 7 women, I don't know. And I'm considered the least emotional one on the team. Like we have one team member who's amazing at working with clients because she's a feeler. And her nickname, like we all call her the cheese because she's cheesy. Like we joke, we're like, oh my gosh, you're so cheesy. But like you need that. Like certain clients need her. So when we get an email from a client who needs that level, we're always like, oh, Deb, you need to reply to so-and-so. And she's like,
Can
I
you give an
got you.
example? Now I got to hear. Like, so I would love to hear, like, what's an
So
example of
like
like piling on the cheese?
So she's the one where, like, if we have a client who, like bad things happen all the time, like had
Yeah.
something misfortunate happen or someone passed away, or they're passing along really good news, or like our clients will email us and be like, we have some clients in an actual situation right now, kind of things in this part of the world. I'm in Washington, D.C. are kind of on fire right now. Everyone's completely freaking out. We have a lot of clients who are government employees. And we have this one couple, they both work for one of the government agencies and it's bad, but they have a daughter who's applying to college right now. And they'll send us an email because, of course, we're involved in the college planning. And they'll be like, hey, we're trying to focus on the positive right now. We just want to let you know, like she got into these schools or whatever. And they're basically just trying to feel better about their lives and things are going great for their daughter. So they're trying to not think about what's happening at work. And we know that needs some kind of like very heartfelt, like type of response. And she's heartfelt, but because it's coming from her, it's very genuine.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm just not that same emotional person. I still have feelings, but I don't express them in the same way. And I don't have that same level of emotional outpour. So she'll send the perfect reply. And because it's coming from her and that is who she is, it's so genuine. like I'm never going to ask someone on my team to be someone they're not, and I'm never going to try to be someone I'm not. So you can't be a different person for each client depending on their personality, but you have to still understand it and work with it, right? So, we do try to sort of parcel things out, depending on who on the team is best suited to working with certain clients. We even do that with the who's the lead advisor for this client. It's if you have a certain thing with that client or you just click, you have to think about those things because they do matter, and especially if your goal is to motivate clients to do things, some clients need like a cheerleader, like somebody who's going to cheer them on and encourage them a lot. And some clients just need you to send them a one-liner that's like, hey, don't forget to do this. And 5 minutes later, they're like, done. But if you're not aware of what kind of communication style you need to have or how much cheering on or encouraging this client needs versus that client, it's not going to work. So I can't think of necessarily kind of super concrete things that I think is just so embedded in what we do and how we work that everybody kind of just gets on board, and that's kind of how we work,
What if financial planning wasn't just about numbers, but about you, your values, your goals, your vision for the future? Nomi is transforming client discovery for wealth managers, going beyond assets and risk scores to uncover what truly matters. With behavioral insights and real-time data, Nomi helps advisors personalize advice, build deeper connections, and grow their businesses. Because the best financial decisions start with knowing you. Discover the future of client engagement at nomi.com. I wonder if for you it comes earlier in the process, that it's not about you guiding your team, that it is absolutely inherent in your recruiting and hiring process, that you bring people into the team that have these skills inherently, and you trust
Right.
that they will be able to authentically deliver in not only to the money and to the numbers and data side, but also into the emotional and motivational and empathetic side that's so inherent
Right.
to the role that you've got.
I think that's probably true. I mean, whenever I hire, what we do is so specific to us, right? I think that's true for most financial advisory firms. Like every financial advisory firm, even like all the fantastic ones, all do things very differently, right? Just as effective, but different. And so I think my approach has always been hire for personality, right? I don't really care what your background was. You don't need a finance background. You don't need experience in industry. You just need the right personality. And as far as I'm concerned, you'll learn the rest of it here. Like a good example is my son, who was not planning to come into our practice. It's a boring story, so I won't give you the gory details, but he was already starting college when he started working here part-time. And he asked me, his passion is history. And he said, Mom, like he's decided that he wants to come to the practice when he graduates. And he asked me, do I need to change my major to finance? And I was like, Jack, you will learn everything that you need to learn about what we do here. Like you do not need a finance degree to work here and be amazing at it, right? There's not going to be, history is such a passion for him. And I said to him, there's never going to be another time in your life when you can immerse yourself in something that you're that passionate about. That's not practical at all. So I want you to take this time, have it for yourself, immerse yourself in it, enjoy it, and you'll learn what you need to learn here. And so he's majoring in history and anthropology, and he loves it. And he's very happy, and I think it's great. And it's not going to make him, maybe it'll make him better as an advisor. It's certainly not going to be a negative, put it that way.
Yeah, totally. What I'm hearing a common theme come out in all of your answers where you respect and encourage even the authenticity of yourself, your team, and it sounds like your clients. You recognize that each person is authentically them. And you're not going to try to force them to do something else. You have, like you said in the very beginning, you have to meet them where they are, but also try to get them on a path of taking action in a way that's going to be serving your business and their futures in a way that's really meaningful. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the role you see technology playing. So you kind of referenced a bit about we use CRM. CRM is used for everything. We take notes. Is there an opportunity, or how do you see technology supporting codifying the notes, making it more insightful? So you can recognize some of what you're learning in your discovery processes, which sound like they're fantastic and really deep, but maybe you could find trends, or you could find something that should really pop up in one client when all of a sudden it's like you've got all the notes, but how is it really showing up? Oh, something's really going on with this client. It's different.
No, I mean, I think there's a gap. I think there's absolutely a gap because even though, like, for example, I think we do a great job of uncovering a lot of the emotional side of a client, we don't necessarily have a great way to have that information front and center. So I think that's where the gap is, right? Today, regardless of how well, how much I know about a client emotionally and what motivates them, what their personality is like, most of it honestly is in my head, right? And so only the people that are sitting in the meeting, which for us is two people on the team in every meeting, those people are going to get a sense for it and get a feel for it. But it's very difficult to take that soft data and get it into some place that's repeatable, or other people on the team are going to see it. Like, that's where I think the need and the gap is that technology can help to fill. Is like, we have to figure out, how do we quantify, and it's not that we're taking something that's emotional and making it not emotional, but it's making that information accessible and easily, readily there, so that, if let's say there's a client that I work with more often, but, part of the reason that we're on a team is so that if I'm in Europe for 3 months, that somebody else on the team could do the meeting, right? And so instead of them having to go through like years and years worth of reading notes, which is really, really time consuming to kind of get a really good feel for it, right? There's got to be some way where they could kind of, maybe there's like categories or something where someone else can look and see, oh, okay, this client's motivated by these things, or these are triggers for this client, or whatever those other things are that are the soft data. I think there needs to be a way where that can be accessible and can be put into words or in the data or available to other people. So it's not just
extractable.
Oh, Miye's
and
worked with this
analyzable.
client.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So it's not like, hey, Miye knows this person really well because she's worked with them for 30 years. Well, guess what? Miye's not going to be here 30 years or whatever,
Right.
So I want that information that instead of just sitting in my head or my heart or wherever, I want it also to be available to other people that can use the information.
Thank you. I appreciate that answer a lot. So you expressed interest in what we're building at Nomi, really hoping to hone in on exactly that. And one of the things that you referenced, you said, sometimes clients come in and they don't know the answers. They might not be ready. They might not have prepared. And in a prior discussion we had, you had said that they might not be ready immediately to vulnerably talk about it, especially if it's a new relationship. And they might feel a little bit more trusting with a digital tool where they can write it down and process it a bit more. So I wonder if you could share a bit more about what sparked your interest in what we're building related to systematizing, codifying exactly this type of emotional relationship with money. Where are you? Where do you come from? What is your history? What is your vision of the future? What is it you want to do more of and less of in life? How would you prioritize different things? What kind of sparked your interest in that concept?
I mean, I think there were two main parts of it. One is the one that we just talked about, which is that I'm always thinking ahead, right? And so I put my succession plan into place like in 2017, which now is, 8 years ago. So, I was in my 40s or whatever. This industry, everybody wants to work until they're 100 and die at their desk. And I was like, that is not me. I'm going to be living in Europe somewhere. And yeah, long gone by the time I'm 65. And I also, people on my team give me a really hard time about this, but I'm always like, look, you guys, I could get hit by a bus today. And if that happens, like, I don't want the clients to have to skip a beat. They might be sad that I'm gone, but as far as everything else goes, I want them to know, and I want you guys to know that everything's there, right? So I think the first issue was, how do I take some of this non-number, non-hard data information and get it into a place where it's accessible for other people, so that if I'm not here, which eventually, whether I get hit by a bus or I'm living in Italy, is going to be a reality, right? So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was kind of what you talked about just now, which is that, even though I think we do a great job of getting people to open up and that kind of thing, everybody's different, right? And everybody's different, comfortable with different things. And unfortunately, in my mind, unfortunately, one of the kind of outcomes of COVID is that we do a lot more. It's good and it's bad, but we do a lot more on video now than we used to. We used to do almost all of our meetings in person. And clearly, like, our reach has expanded because now we have clients all over the country that we've never met in person. And this is all possible because we can do things virtually. But that's, let's face it, having a meeting with someone virtually on a camera is not the same thing as sitting in the same room with them. So I think depending on the situation, depending on the client, and even when I was thinking about it after having an initial conversation with you about, how this is an app and you fill it out on your phone or your laptop or what have you, certainly there is something to be said for just answering questions or filling out a survey is different than having to say that to somebody face to face. And there are lots of situations and lots of personality types that are going to be way more forthcoming with information when they're doing it on their own. And so I think that's something really important to think about, is that, maybe they're going to tell us some information, but maybe something else is going to come out somewhere else that maybe they wouldn't have said in a conversation, or maybe it just didn't come up, or whatever the situation is. So I think one of the things that I say to people at the beginning of our intake meeting, which is when we gather all the soft data, that meeting, is I always tell them more is better, right? The more information we have, the better we feel that we know you, the more we know about your preferences and your priorities and your personality quirks and your wants and the more we know, the better job we're going to be able to do in serving you, because we're giving you recommendations. And if our recommendations aren't aligned with your goals or your personality or what you're trying to do, it's not worth anything, right? So having multiple mediums to gather that information just means we have more information accessible to us to help them and help them better, which is always going to be better for everyone, right? So
yeah, I love it. So it harkens back to everything you've been saying all along in this discussion. It is you have this incredibly high bar for empowering people to live and interact authentically in a way that makes the most sense for them. And that's kind of the trick. That is the secret sauce to your practice. It's the secret sauce to your growth. It's why you've won, so many years in a row as the best financial planning practice, why you're on the advisory board of Osaic. And so I'm thrilled with that feedback, and I'm so glad you shared it. So our last question on the podcast is always, what is one instance in your life or a conversation that you had that totally changed your personal relationship with money?
I thought about that, and it's not necessarily like a conversation, but one thing that happened to me in the last couple of years that really changed how I look at money is, like, I grew up with a lot of scarcity. My parents were divorced when I was young, and money was not in abundance when I was growing up. And so for a really long time, I had a very, like, I didn't feel safe or secure unless I knew where every penny was, and balance my checkbook to the penny. And like, it was like a control thing. Like, I could only feel comfortable if I could control everything and I knew where everything was. And that was kind of my background. But one thing that I realized in the last couple of years is that sometimes what may seem to you, or to me, this is really me thinking, right? Maybe what may seem to me like a small thing or a small amount of money to someone else in a different situation can be the difference between like sleeping at night or not sleeping at night. And of course I can relate to that because I was in that position, right? For a long time when I was young, but it's easy to forget, right? Things get more comfortable. You make more money. You're in a better financial situation. Of course you want to forget about the times where you were struggling and not sleeping at night and had debt up to here. But I got to a point after like helping out a few friends where I realized like I could personally, with my own money, make a really, really big difference in someone else's life. And it wasn't enough that it was going to change my life at all. And that sounds really crass, but literally where I could be like, okay, this person now is like, has a smile on their face and is sleeping at night because I was able to help them out. And it's not going to change my life at all. Like, you can't take it with you when you die, right? One person only needs like so much money, right? I'm not one of those people who's like, I want more. Like, you get to that certain level and like the extra, it's really just extra, right? And you can choose to give to charity. And I do give to charity, and there's support causes that I support, but there's something so different about when it's really personal and realizing, wow, like I just made a huge difference in this person's life. And literally like today doesn't feel different to me than yesterday did, except that I'm happier because I'm happier for them. But like in the real tangible way of things, it didn't change my life, but it changed their life. And after having done it a couple of times now, like I just do it so much more freely because I'm like, what else is the success and the money for if it's not to make the people around you happy?
That's a gorgeous answer. There's like this selflessness that you've kind of embraced as a part of your personal relationship with money.
And it didn't used to be that way. I would never give away lots of money before, but
I love it.
It was just this thing where I realized it and I was like, wow, this is awesome.
And it comes right back around. And that feeling just kind of, it's so rewarding. Well, Miye, this has been an absolutely inspiring conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on discovery and building trust and the human side of planning and how you've actually built such a successful planning practice. It's really clear that great financial advice and planning is not about the numbers. It's about understanding people, their values, the life they want to build, and then respecting their own authentic approach. And that's really what the best advisors do. I think they're not just managing wealth, they're fostering confidence and this authentic relationship with money over a lifetime. So if today's discussion resonated with you, start by asking, how well do I truly know my clients? Or if you're an advisor, someone seeking financial guidance, meaningful discovery is a key to financial well-being. So Miye, if you'd like, if there's anyone here that might want to check in, where might be able to follow? I don't know if you have a newsletter or anything that you publish. Is there any way that someone could learn more about Miye Wire LLC?
I mean, yeah, they can reach out to us. Our website is just miyewirellc.com, and it's MIYEWIRE. We also have a team email. It's just team@miyewirellc.com. And, people reach out to us by email all the time. We have a Facebook page as well. So yeah, I have a LinkedIn. So, I think probably, honestly, the website is the best way. The website or the email are the best ways to get in touch with us. But
perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. And for our listeners, what's one question that you wish your advisor would ask you? Drop it in the comments or DM me. Thank you for joining us on the Knowing Me, Knowing You podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Your support helps us bring more transformative conversations to you. Until next time, keep discovering, keep growing, and remember, you're in control of your own financial story. Follow us for more conversations on financial confidence, self-discovery, and the future of money.